Screw loose juice. All right, welcome everybody to a new edition of the Screw Loose Juice podcast. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the next 5 years of Rare Americans in kind of celebration of the current 5 years of Rare Americans.
So that would be 10 years.
It'd be 10 years. I'm currently rocking this sweet 5 years of RA Cats, Dogs, and Rats kind of hoodie, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, so we've talked a little bit about the past 5 years. Lots of stuff has gone by. Does it feel like I'm trying to gauge so much of does it feel like we've done an absolute ton in 5 years? Or is it oh, that was no problem, went by, I'm even gauging for myself, does it feel even for me holy shit, man, how much we did, can we do that again? Or is it no, we can do way more than that, or
So I don't know, I think we've done a ton, like you said, that 82 songs. I don't know how many bands release 82 songs.
That's 82 songs released, right?
Released,
let alone
what we have, and we have another probably 40 or 35 recorded. So
35 probably.
It's a ton.
That's a ton, yeah.
But luckily we are lucky enough that we can keep doing this.
It was a quote that I saw from this, what was it called? Art and Copy. It's a really cool documentary that goes into the advertising industry, but the creatives behind all the different ad campaigns, Got Milk and Nike Just Do It, and the Apple where they were wearing the headphones kind of on the green screen and they were doing those crazy dances. And anyway, all these kind of creatives who run these ad companies and write all the copy and come up with these ideas. And the very beginning of the film, he says something like, the scariest thing about being a creative is you have no idea where your ideas come from, and you have no idea where the next one will come or if it ever will. And being in that industry where it's, it's just, you're creating these things out of nothing that it's so hard to predict, where you're going to get inspiration, if it will be as good as things that you've done before. One thing I try to believe is our best work, or my own, best initiatives are ahead of me, not behind me. But the hard part about it is also knowing that so many bands that you their first record was their best record, and then you feel like it just starts to kind of go down.
But would they think that?
It almost doesn't matter. It's what do you feel as as a listener of that band? I'm trying to think of examples of bands where I liked their later records more. I guess Arctic Monkeys. I liked some of their stuff later.
I think the Tranquility, I know it was not the most successful record.
More of a concept record.
What was my favorite?
AM was a really cool record.
That was fourth?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about Green Day. They also have different waves of fans, right? There's some Green Day fans that would like that middle American Idiot phase.
Yeah, that's true.
And some that like Dookie.
And speaking of the Beatles, their biggest single of all time and the best-selling albums are second half of their career. So I think it's individual. Of course, you have Strokes, you have Rage Against the Machine, who smashed it with the first record. But even Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think it was.
Yeah, it's almost more, maybe not even as much about that, more as you get older in your life, you're not a 20-year-old kid or 22-year-old kid who's it's you have to almost channel that same angst and pure emotion you almost have as a young adult in a way, and try to get back to some of those feelings of that passion and stuff. As you start to get a little bit older, your life changes. You just start to have your Friday nights are no longer about crazy wild shenanigans all the time. You look forward to doing much more just less crazier, intense shit that you got to pull inspiration from new places or find new ways to write about things or topics that you've written about a lot before.
But I would say the most successful bands in the world, the lyrics are usually very mature, It's not like I got fucked up on Friday.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
So it's like the lyrics can resonate with a 60-year-old as much as they resonate with 20-year-old. So I don't think. I mean, in some cases, maybe you're just a teenage punk band. Maybe yes, then it's harder to write about these things when you're 40 or think about these things. But I think as long as you keep it just, I don't want to say general, but it's something that it's relatable to a lot of people, because a lot of people go through the same things most of the time.
True, yeah.
You can be on the top for a very long time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a very artist perspective, that like you have to have the muse or that feeling there to inspire you to write like your best stuff, and maybe you feel like that's past and you'll never get it again. But as we've proven with all these artists, they come back, and they, many artists do better stuff later.
And then you have like Billy Joel, who said like, okay, 20 years,
yeah,
I've done everything.
I've said everything I had to say.
There's nothing more for me to hear to.
But that's Billy Joel still plays every year. He sells out Madison Garden every month. So like
I guess it's easier when you're Billy Joel, the 4th best-selling artist in the U.S. of all time.
Okay, we're not Billy Joel yet.
I'm 50 now. I'm taking a break, and we're also not 50 yet. So
for sure, yeah. No, and I also am not saying like, oh my god, I'm so worried that we can never write a good song again or something like that. I get just as excited about writing a song on the weekend or whatever, I think, as I did 5 years ago. It's just, I think that now you almost have like experience as a gift and a curse in a way, because when you're totally inexperienced, you're just doing everything out of pure gut emotion, whatever, I'm doing this, I'm whatever, I have no idea. And now the more you start to experience things, the more you probably start to bring in that experience to what you're doing. And, you start to mature, I guess, in some ways, whether as a songwriter or you think after, hey, I've written hundreds of songs now, I'm better at this, or I know how a song comes together a little bit more, or whatever, that sometimes you almost wish that you could forget everything that you kind of know and just go back to being the blind, like pure passion, pure whatever. You have no idea what you're actually doing, and rock it.
Yeah, but that's such a risky and wild move that, like, I think as you get older, you can start to, or more experience at what you do, you now know the rules, and you know which ones you can mess around with and what you can work with, as long as you think that way. I think there's many young bands that come out that don't do anything because they do whatever the fuck they want, and it doesn't work out, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's like when you do your first mix or something. At first you do just whatever. Sometimes it sounds good, but most of the times it sounds like shit. But as soon as you learn, okay, this is how things should work, now you can break the rules, and you know why you're breaking them. You know why it's cool, and I guess experience can only help you, or mostly help you.
I mean, I think you're right. It can put you in a box, right? Like you can put yourself in a box and
that's your decision.
Go with the constraints. Well, yeah, I guess it's a decision, but at the same time, you might not be aware of it either, right?
Subconscious kind of kicking in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's also, I think the other thing is time goes on, you have ebbs and flows, in times where you're killing it, feel on top of the world, to times where you feel like nothing is going your way whatsoever, to, fluctuating between those things. And I was reading this book called Good to Great, which is very popular in the business world, I think. And they analyzed great companies that had been around for, that stand the test of time, and one of the main factors was the ability to innovate, and the ability to totally reinvent, and the ability to understand when something isn't working, and to totally shift gears, take that knowledge and try new things to figure out, it could be an ultimately totally different product that brings that company back to the top again once they've experienced major lulls. And that almost every single one of those companies had the ability to do that, and to also test all sorts of different things into the marketplace, and you never know which of those little things that you do is going to be the catalyst for major inspiration, growth, whatever people might connect with. And I thought that was really interesting because I was then trying to think back to what we do. And I think something that's cool is like, what we've been doing lately, we felt like the last project didn't stream as much, or we didn't have a song pop off as much as we wanted to. And we were all kind of beating ourselves up a little bit. And, and then we kind of, just kind of shifted gears a little bit to, okay, let's kind of refocus, recenter ourselves. What's the most important thing? Okay, make cool stuff, make authentic stuff, have that be our North Star, and almost through that process, trust that something good will come out of it. And now even focusing on that for just a short amount of time, bringing on a videographer full time, then we start to do projects like this. And we start to do projects like this Balmoral Unplugged video, or the Brittle Bones Nicky kind of unplugged video. And you get into now a new energy of like, okay, we're just creating all the time. We have multiple projects on the go at any one time. Even the way that we've approached our social content is different than we ever have with, finding a storytelling type of approach. And just even by switching gears for like a month or 6 weeks or something like that, and going back to that focus, it's like, okay, things are already doing better than they were.
We seem more inspired, I think.
Yeah, and I think right there is just like we're almost doing, we're doing our best. Obviously, we're not a massive company or anything like that, but taking similar ideas of, okay, try different things and see what's going to work. Let's try this podcast and now putting video to it, and let's test this out and see if people dig it, and hopefully it goes great.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and I think also music-wise, the next projects that are going to come up are going to be different music-wise. I would say like a lot of the last 3-4 albums had the similar sound, same producer, kind of a lot of the songs were actually produced by us, etc. I think we talked about in the podcast. So this is in line with, there's a lot of new things. There's like a, not rebirth of Rare Americans, but
a just totally different sound.
The sound is we just have new people on the team. It feels like it's very different Rare Americans team that was 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So
yeah. But you got to that's the thing is like, I think another quote, Brett Gurewitz of who's in Bad Religion, and he started Epitaph, which is pretty big kind of independent punk label, and he said the best thing that a band can do is not quit, because along the road, the journey of even 5 years is a huge milestone. How many bands started and quit because it just got hard, it got frustrating, it got to a point where, my God, I just can't put this much effort into this anymore. You start to have conflicts with people, you can't resolve them, you just, and bam, let's just quit. Versus, we've had all those same problems, all those same conflicts, all those same whatever, but, you're just like, no, you got to go, and you got to continue, and you got to find a way to get through it and get to the next project, and and keep shooting the puck, keep putting it out there and see what happens, kind of thing.
Paramore was like that.
Oh,
they almost broke up multiple times. They had a lot of problems, but then we saw them last year in London, sold out O2 Arena.
Yep.
It was their biggest show, I think, ever. And they've been around, 16 years.
I think a lot of these bands, Brian May said that about Queen, that being in a band is like being in a marriage. You're just up and downs and fights, and it's very emotional. But I guess you try to stick together because what you created is this baby or whatever that you need to take care of now, and you owe something to the baby, and sometimes maybe you want to quit the marriage, but you keep going. And some people do quit the marriage. Some people do quit the band. So
yeah, and things happen, life happens, and whatever. It's hard to predict as time goes on. But anyway, I feel hopeful. I feel energized, motivated. I think my favorite part of what we do is what we're doing now, I would say, is when we're in like a very much a creation stage, where I feel like now we're just starting to catch a wave, or catch a catch a vibe, or almost even like on a day-to-day of, just a flow of things where you're like, hey, we got to make a lot of stuff. What's the next one? Okay, we know these are big projects. Okay, let's start at day one. How do we do this? Let's get some inspiration. Okay, next thing, let's just further it. And getting in the habit of doing that is really fun. That when you're in touring mode, you just, it's so much harder to do. You're just, every single day is like a bit of a dogfight to get enough sleep, eat. You just have no ability to really be in an environment where you're like, you know what, we're just in creation mode. Let's just try a whole bunch of ideas. Let's see what works, what's fun, what people are engaging with, what we like doing, and what's important to us and our own values, and what we care about. And being able to put all of your energy into that is really fun every day, albeit still, I don't want to say like equally as tiring, because you're able to get a good sleep every night and whatnot. But there's you gotta keep doing it every single day, and it's not easy. But I like it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Did you ever seriously consider like closing the project down?
No, no. I would say not closing the project down. No, definitely not. Times where I've been like, is this all my life is going to be, I guess? Or, times where I've considered like, should I diversify my skills, or should I, because I think as a human, you also want to feel like you're growing and you're learning, and you're learning from other people as well. I think it's a big one. And I think when you're jumping into different teams, or call it a different job or a different whatever, you're naturally going to learn something totally new. And I think the hardest part probably for me in what we do is, we're just so much in our own bubble, that it's really on us to just keep carrying the torch, coming up with new ideas, trying new things. And there's nobody really that you can like ask for help, or there's nobody that you can ask for.
Well, we've tried.
Yeah. We've tried, but it just, unfortunately, it hasn't really, I don't know, worked out, or, you also don't want to feel like you're somebody's last priority, when that's the hardest part, I think, when you're asking other people, call it in the music industry, for help, when this is the most important thing, to us, because it's what we do every day. And if you're somebody else's fourth or fifth or 10th priority, it's just, you're setting yourself up for such a letdown. It's tough. It's like if you're like who told me this example once? Maybe my brother. Like, if you're an employee who really wants to talk to the boss about something, it's really important to you. It's all you're thinking about every single day when you go to work every day. You just can't stop thinking about it until you get this resolved. But to the boss, you're like, oh, fuck that guy. Like, I haven't even thought about, that he wants to talk to me. And it's like, in that guy's life, that's his number one problem, that he needs to talk to the boss or whatever, to get this sorted, whatever it's about. And to the other guy, it's like, oh, dude, I'm dealing with 50 other things right now. I haven't even thought about this.
But who's like, it's nobody's fault. Like, I guess the boss is also.
I guess a good boss in that regard would be like, okay, you're on my team, so I care about you. It's such a priority for me to give you the time and attention, and something that could probably be resolved in 5 minutes or whatever. That boom, it's a win-win for everybody.
What if it has 50 people like that?
Exactly. I guess that's where it's tough.
Everybody has problems, right?
But I guess the point is to say, like, in us trying to ask for help or whatever, you want to feel like, you're someone is so devoted to helping you with your thing to further it, that they actually genuinely really care as much about what you're doing as you are. And that's really hard to find.
But I think that's a key lesson that we've learned is nobody cares.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can never expect anybody to care as much as you do.
Yeah.
And I think it's proven nobody does, unless they're like fully into the project, like they're part of it. Right.
Or it's financially smashing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, because we kind of did most of our work, or the initial work on actually not really, but we spent a lot of times of our career in pandemic, right? Very isolated, and we kind of developed this, as you say, bubble. Like, I assume that if you're in LA or Seattle back in the day or whatever, just the bands hang out all the time and they exchange ideas and they meet at the studio, and there's just like a huge hub of ideas kind of floating back and forth. But with us, like it's just us, right? And the internet.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we're at a lack of ideas. We
No, it's just
have loads of those. And,
Yeah.
and opinions and comments, that's for sure. So, yeah, true enough. What do you think about the next 5 years for Rare Americans? What are you looking for?
Well, I'd like to see us, I guess, ultimately, release the most successful project we've ever released. That would be, I guess, my goal is to have like a real iconic kind of record that is undeniable, that people really, really love it and connect with it, and it means a lot to them, and it just creates a little bit of a wave, so to speak, that it's like, hey man, have you heard this record? Like I absolutely can't stop listening to this shit. Like I absolutely love it. And I think if you do something like that, that's your ticket to, where we say high tides raise all ships. Like that's your ticket to playing bigger venues, meeting more fans around the world, impacting more kids out there in a positive way. Having more, more t-shirts out the door, and having kids wearing your logo kind of proud. I think it all stems from that, is having like a real successful, iconic kind of record. I think that's when things like press and whatever, not that I really actually give that much of a shit about press, but I think that's when they start jumping on board, and you kind of create this somewhat of a tidal wave. So I hope that is I hope that's the next record we release, of course, but you all and I have
the last one,
and I have a lot of belief that it is, and that we can do that for sure. But at the same time, again, it's the type of thing that it's like you can't if it's not. You got to be willing to be like, all right, I gotta lace up the skates again and try to make something even better than this. Like, okay, let's go. And you gotta. That's probably the hardest part, is the more anticipation or emotion that you put into something, the more that win or loss kind of weighs on you, I would say. It's kind of, I guess, like a relationship. The more you put into a relationship, the more that it impacts you if it breaks up or implodes or something like that. So that would be my biggest hope, is just to have a record that everybody just absolutely loves, and then from there it would be to, I guess, follow it up with something else fucking awesome, and just, I guess, just like cement ourselves in a name, like, like I feel like it doesn't matter what Arctic Monkeys release next. Like whether Alex Turner wants to do another concept album like Tranquility Hotel and Casino, or he wants to make another banging like punk record like their first record. It doesn't matter. They're Arctic Monkeys, and they're going to be able to go anywhere in the world for the rest to the day they die, and they're going to have people being like, Arctic Monkeys is fucking rad. And I think it's like, once you can get yourself to, that type of, absorption from that many fans who dug you and kind of rock your shirt and wear your tattoo, so to speak, then you're just free to do whatever you want as an artist. And you're not worried at that point about commercial success. You're not worried about financial success. You're in it for, let's just do whatever, try, experiment, whatever. That would be probably that's the ultimate goal, is just to be a staple in alternative music that people, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, look back and they're like, man, that band tried a lot of cool stuff, and I'm taking inspiration from that, to all the kids who are 13 right now listening to us.
That's a good one. Or even musicians, if they were like, oh, do it like Rare Americans.
Exactly.
That'd be dope. Like, we use it all the time. Strokes, or
let's try the Tom Waits piano.
I want to go to
let's
a bar.
Let's try the Jongo piano.
I want to go to a bar and hear a cover band playing a Rare American song. That'd be so cool. That'd be something else.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
I don't really have any, like, do you guys have like a venue that you're like, oh my God, this is what I want to do so badly, and that would be like a, bucket list thing for me?
Yeah, I mean, that always adjusts. Like, my bucket list was to play stadium, and we did it. So I'm like, okay, readjust. Red Rocks.
I think you can
Amphitheater.
still keep that one on the bucket list and have that be like a stadium.
Our
that's,
show.
A pack stadium or our
or
stadium.
a certain
yeah.
level of
Fair enough.
the people in the stands at the stadium.
Red Rocks Amphitheater would be. That's a really nice venue.
I thought about that too. I've always kind of thought about that, but the one thing is like I much prefer when people are really close to the stage, and it feels like it's a little bit more of like it feels like a dive bar even in a bigger venue. And Red Rocks and everybody's kind of like sitting or they stand sometimes. I don't know.
It's just like a lot of my favorite bands have played
for
there.
sure.
I mean, everybody's.
It's
played
undoubtedly extremely iconic.
I would also really like to play Commodore Ballroom.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah.
In Vancouver, which is our hometown.
Yeah.
Kind of like all the cool bands always played at Commodore.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So
you're like, if a band that you like is playing a Commodore, you're so excited to go to the show.
yeah, and it's only like what 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Like we could probably play there tomorrow if we wanted. Like maybe we could get people out, but yeah, do you want to sell out Commodore and have like the best show and really make it awesome? That's a big goal. I have lots of goals. I'd like to. I want to play a late night TV show.
Yeah.
That would be really fun. I would
again. I think that shit all stems from one banging successful record.
Yeah, it's just one song.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of it. I remember I have a group chat with my friends, and in the group chat we don't really talk about music that often. We all used to be musicians or played in bands when we were kids. But somebody sent in like, check out this album. It's the best thing I've ever heard. You have to listen to this. And it was Turnstile.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, wow. Like,
same thing I'm talking about with like riding the wave of a very successful record. It's like they put out a really cool record and it literally was an absolute, they were like, they'd been around a long time, longer than us, way longer than us. And, they weren't, I don't want to say underground, but they were kind of a hardcore band from Baltimore. And then they put out that record and it just absolutely caught fire. And now they've been touring it for, it's got to be 3 years.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I want to see that happen to other people's group chats. I know it does. Like I know people.
You know what's interesting about that record? I was listening to it a little bit more like critically. Like analyzing it. And as a hardcore band, it's really interesting. At least to me, listening back to it, how they tracked it. Like it's extremely, I would say, pop or hip hop. The way that it's put together because everything is clearly its own element. Like it's not a band just jamming in a room. It's like you could clearly hear the MIDI type of percussion sometimes they use with the drum kit that is purely in the middle with zero bleed of any other instrument. The guitar is as tight in its own little compartment as humanly possible. It's very, very, very different than what you would expect.
It's very produced.
Yeah, it's extremely produced. And even his vocals, like extremely, like tons of reverb, tons of delays. Like it's very, very, very produced, but it doesn't sound produced. It sounds new and it sounds fresh and exciting. That
sounded produced to me.
Yeah.
But I agree, it does sound new.
Yeah.
Like it's like the music I used to listen to, but this like interesting twist on it.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, that's really unique.
Exactly.
I think, you know? Like a cool way of repackaging.
Yeah, very different than just a band jamming in a room, which sometimes I guess you would think when you hear a hardcore band, you're like, these guys are just playing into each other, riffing off the floor. And I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get how this attracted so many people that probably would never have been a hardcore fan before because it does have pop almost production to it.
But I believe they worked with a new producer for that album, right?
Yeah, they worked with Mike Elizondo, I think his name is, who is like a hip hop, like worked with like Eminem and all sorts of huge artists.
So I guess that brings us to the next point.
Yeah.
Who would we like to work with, producer-wise, band-wise, artist-wise? I don't know if anybody has anything.
I think a producer, it would be just so cool to work with Rick Rubin, just because...
He's going to be, by the time we, next 5 years, what's he going to be doing? He'll be in a barrel sauna, like... dried up or something, who knows what he's gonna be doing.
Dude, I don't know, you might want to take that back, dude. I don't know if you want to put that out into the interview. Rick Rubin, I sure hope you don't hear that, man.
Hey, I love Rick Rubin. I listen to his podcast.
Much respect to you. In 5 years from now, or even 25 years from now, I would love to do a record with you at any point in time. But I just think that from what I've kind of heard from him or listening in interviews, like he's so much about the emotion of, what are you trying to get across here, and why does this mean something to you, and why should anybody else care about this? Cut all fat, cut all bullshit, be as authentic as humanly possible, and all the imperfections that come along with being a human, because we are all extremely imperfect, and get that however you possibly can, get that across.
That's
and anything,
life coach.
And anything that's not that, get out of it. He is kind of a life coach. I mean, now he seems to be entering into, I see, doing way more podcasts. He wrote a book on creativity, which is using music obviously as the method in the channel. But yeah,
does he still produce?
Yeah,
who's he working with right now?
He just I think all the time. Like he just did Imagine Dragons' last double album that they put out last year. He produced that. My guess is it's also interesting when you're someone, say, like Imagine Dragons, because I heard Dan Reynolds talk a little bit about it as well. Like, you've reached a pinnacle of your career as well, where you're an iconic, biggest band probably in the world outside of maybe Coldplay and whatever, that when you get into a studio, you must have just so much confidence in your ideas and your own ability that working with a producer, the dynamic really shifts to, if this is your first record and you're working with Rick Rubin, you're going to probably, everything he says, he's God in a way. But when you're also at an equal level, or, could argue a higher level, it's as much about your own ideas as their ideas. So it would be really interesting to see when they have disagreements about, he was talking about that. Like, I think Rick Rubin, a couple of the songs, he was kind of like, this is not authentic, or like, I don't believe you. I don't believe what you're saying. And Dan Reynolds is like, I believe what I'm saying. I think this is awesome. Like, who are you, kind of thing, to tell me that this isn't authentic? So it would be really interesting to be a fly on the wall and kind of hear those disagreements and those arguments, and how ultimately you get through them.
Well, I look forward to arguing with Rick Rubin.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
Yeah, me too.
I'd love to do that.
That'd be really cool.
Jongo, who do you want to work with?
I don't know. I've been watching a lot of these Mix with the Masters and BBC Meister or whatever, and I came across the guy. He's actually probably different to Rick Rubin, polar opposite. Like, he plays all the instruments. He's a jazz pianist. His name is Jeff Basker, and he produced Uptown Funk with Mark Ronson, and he worked with Bruno Mars and a lot of hip hop artists, and I can't remember who else, but I really liked his philosophy. He was very calm. I think we need a little bit of like a calm dude now. After all our experiences, we want someone who just like makes you feel like everything's fine. And I think he's all in. He understands the drums. He's a fantastic jazz pianist, guitar player. He's an artist as well. He sings. So it will be interesting. That's not probably my biggest dream ever that I dreamt of, but first thing that came to my mind.
What about you?
I'd love to be a band that, and I know we're working on this, but I'd love to be a band that gets a lot of features. And I would love to be a band that works with a lot of artists. And I just watched Sam Smith last night.
You went to the show?
I went to the show. And
did you like it?
Yes, I really did. I thought it was fantastic. But the singing is so good.
Yeah, he's just an absolute powerhouse.
Like I would, and nothing against you, James, but I would love to have like just these amazing singers that you hear on these records just to come in and be like, oh my God. And I'd love to hear or Travis Barker, or like I want like these really cool people to come in and do something to
That's kind of
music.
like what Gorillaz does, I guess. Like they've just had so many features over the years. And even like Dan Auerbach, he did a fully separate project called Black Rock, which was him and Patrick or whatever they made all the music and the beats and stuff, and it sounded a bit like Black Keys, but then the whole record is a record of features that they got all these different rappers to kind of rap and sing over top of the kind of more rock bluesy kind of beats that they made, and it was a really cool project. It's called Black Rock. Check it out.
Yeah, that kind of stuff would be really cool to just...
When it comes to artists and trying to stay in the world of like reality, not Sam Smith and
well, we're talking about
we're talking about
goals
iconic band, but I don't know if Arctic Monkeys could get Sam Smith on the record. I don't know. But I've been big fan of Ren, and I think
he'd be awesome.
It's one of the few times that it happened to me over the last how many years where I was like, oh my god, this is cool. Billie Eilish was one of those. Noga Erez was one of those. And then so that's from the contemporary artist, and I was gonna say Tom York because I think I would like to work with them almost as a fly on the wall or something, like see how because I think their production and their choices of sound are so different from everybody else. They're not just, I don't think they're like, play me a reference and just listen to a kick drum. It's like,
I bet that they're listening to references the exact same way we are.
Maybe, but the result, at least, maybe they listen to references that I've never heard.
Maybe, yeah. So, well, exactly. That could just
be... But we usually listen, or a lot of people listen to references like Pink Floyd or listen to Imagine Dragons or Arctic Monkeys, which are well-known references. So I don't know if they listen to obscure, South African jazz, and then they take a...
I heard Dave Grohl talking about some of the early Nirvana stuff, and he was listening to...
funk bands.
Yeah, all sorts of the funk bands, and he was... taking all of those drum rhythms, like literally lifting them directly from those songs, which is, it's cool. That obviously, similar to Turnstile, it's taking like two unlikely things and putting them together to create this new thing, which it feels like you've never heard before.
Well, I think that's what's interesting about our music in the first place is Jongo has all this Beatles stuff that comes in randomly, and you have the more pop punk influence, and it sounds really interesting. Like it's like there's just lots of different influences that you can hear in everybody's music. And
one thing I'm trying to do a little bit more, but I almost miss it, is like when I feel even in the Lunas or the band before this band, because we didn't record really, not till a little bit later once I went to engineering school, but so much of songwriting was like you'd write a song on the acoustic guitar, and then we were just met up in a jam space for 4 days a week, and so you would just jam these songs, and one idea would spark a cool instrumental section, or now you're a song that could have easily just been 2 minutes and 10 seconds was 4 minutes, because you get to know people that you're playing with, and that takes you into a new type of thing that creates an entirely new part. And listening back even to some of those demos, I was like, oh, that's super cool, that I almost wish we did a little bit more of. But I find what's almost challenging about the way that we've kind of gone about making music in the more, I guess, recent years is more through actually demoing in the computer. And so you're much more like, okay, here's a verse, here's a chorus. Okay, let's go back to a verse now. And okay, how are we going to get a cool part of a bridge and kind of get to the end of the song? It's much harder, I think, to conceive on the spot that way. Like, oh, someone played a note that took us into this really interesting, totally different B section that's like in the song, I'll name drop a song. In the song Anomaly, we go into that kind of B section.
Oh, yeah.
Dun, da, da, dun, dun, da, da, da.
Yeah.
In the middle of a song, you have this like cool kind of like more halftime type of, really a totally just a B section.
But to be honest, we recorded it separately.
Yeah, but that was a Luna song. Like that was verbatim a Luna song.
Oh, you're talking about okay.
We just literally changed all. I like at that point writing this project or whatever. We were on song 15 or something, and it was like, okay, I'm not playing C, G, D here. I don't know. Let me go back to old material and see if I can literally take the skeleton of this entire song, scrap the lyrics, keep the melodies, and make this as part of this project, because it was like when you're dealing with that volume of songs in such a short amount of time, it's hard to come up with thin air, come up with a new progression that's cool, a melody that's cool. So that, as an example.
But isn't that like a goal as well? I don't know if that's your goal or anybody else's, but that's kind of a nice way to go about it too, where we have a space where we have gear set up all the time, and we don't need to do a podcast, we don't need to record a video, we don't need to do anything. We can just jam for a week, and like that kind of stuff is...
Do you feel like it's going to be like with that in mind, that as a 3-piece it's harder?
Yeah, might be.
Well, sure, of course. I mean, of course that's going to be harder, but it doesn't mean we can't have other people come in, and who knows if we'll stay as a 3-piece the whole time either.
Yeah, I find that 4 would be much better for that purpose.
Yeah, if you could just sing and somebody else.
Or just play rhythm guitar and you get another, like, it's very helpful when you can.
Yeah, bass player.
Here's a dope lead.
Guitar player, yeah.
Here's a dope lead line, or here's, or that's one thing that Lubo is so good at, like having his crazy sounds. It's like all of a sudden you're into this, like, oh, holy fuck, in Thin Air you have like this like wild, atmospheric, completely different, like, oh yeah, I was not coming up with that. That was really interesting, but cool, let's try it out. So I think that it's a little bit more challenging when you're a 3-piece to do that.
Well, maybe we should try that.
I think it's also like I think it might be hard to go back to that because you're so used to whatever, change this, try different chord, try different note, record it, listen back. No, maybe let's go back to the previous one, and then it's like evaluating with the speakers versus evaluating in the jam space. I think it's a different.
I think it's an and, not or, is the way that I would approach it. Is like, I almost wish even for some of these RA5 kind of anniversary things that, like, when we kind of got to how we were going to redo or reinterpret these songs, that we would almost go back and record it live off the floor in a way with the arrangements and the parts that we kind of came up with. Like, I think that would be a cool exercise, that, you try to kind of piece together this song, because that's hard to do. And when you're sitting in a jam space, that could be either very successful and happen quickly. Like a song like Wayne's World 2 was like that. We started on the computer and then we were just getting frustrated. I think I was getting frustrated, and I was like, can we just play and let's just see what happens? And then within 15 minutes of playing, we had come up with the feel, the ups and downs, the lifts in the song, go back to the verse, and then we threw it down really quickly.
We did with Rhythm Kitchen.
Baggage
similar.
was that too.
Exactly. So, that can be very successful. But again, at that point in time, we had 5. So it's much easier to be like, hey, can you actually try this? Or let's go over here and try that. And bam, you can audition ideas extremely quickly if you feel frustrated working that way.
We can experiment with something like live looping. Have a click, say I can loop the bass line or something,
right? And
then I can play piano, you can play rhythm guitar, or we can try that.
It's very Radiohead.
Yeah. But
that's a neat idea.
It could create again a new. I guess the song will be not will be a rock song played in a room by a band, but it could have a vibe.
I would enjoy that. I'm sure all of us are frustrated at times in the studio when you just have to wait, and it's like, I want to hear this thing, or I want to say it, and it's like, okay, we're already on this path, maybe I should just shut up and let it go, and like, you just want to like try your shit right there.
It's a tough part of creating anything. I think no matter what the discipline is, it's there's a lot of that, like
and going to like if my goals personally, I think I really want to, if I can get enough time, I want to really become a better musician. Like, really,
me too.
I just want to be. I think also our shows could have like, we do have that sometimes, but more like instrumental dope stuff that's really cool. That's really, people are like going crazy. I'm not saying we didn't have not good moments, but I think we can be just like, wow, this is mind blowing, right? It's just a guitar solo is nice, but I think we can up the level there, and then come another thing, writing songs, coming up with ideas, coming up with more and more beats, music as much as possible.
I would say one thing you brought me to there is the live show. Bigger the venues, more production you can kind of do, and the more I like the theatrics. I find theatrics are really fun. and it's something I dig even in some of these videos we've been working on, is almost making them like little plays, which is cool. So I think, you know, taking inspiration from like the Pink Floyds or Roger Waters of the world, where, you know, they are extremely theatrical in the performance. It's just so different. And I think very few bands that do it to, or put as much emphasis on that. And, you know, I think that's one thing that we've done well in the live show, even at small clubs, is like creating moments or whatever, or never going very long without having another moment of something that's like, oh, wow, that was cool. I didn't expect to see that. Continuing to model the show with that in mind. And incorporating, like, even what you're talking about, that's to me a moment. It's another moment. It's just a different version of a moment. And continuing to kind of up the ante on what you're able to do. The bigger the show, the more money you have to play with in the production and out of the budget of the show. I think that's really exciting and cool.
Totally. I was talking about like more personally. Of course, this is a band goal that goes with the, if we get to one song or one album or something. But I was talking more like me coming back to more the roots, where I practice the bass and want to be like a sick musician and just jam and just like demonstrate your skills. Also as a part of the moment or whatever part of the show, and be like proud about it rather than.
I guess one question I would have for you guys is, like, you both seem so proficient or at such a good level on your instruments, that what possibly could happen in a song that anybody could throw at you with any song. I don't want to say any song in the world, but like of any song, even remotely close to our genre, that you guys just like, oh, fuck, this is out of my league, or I need to be a little better to play that. It seems to me that would be like highly unlikely.
Sure.
I'm talking more about the live show rather than recording. I guess there's no space for weird, obscure solos or that are super cool, but maybe not a radio friendly. Talking about the live show.
For me, it's just the pursuit of excellence, right?
Okay, sure.
It's just like that's the way I learned. Just, you always want to get better. You never want to stop. And
fair enough. It's more like a sport.
Yeah, and that's like the thing is, maybe I can play any song that's on the radio, but I don't know if that's what it's about. And also, like, I think with the live show, it's about like being super confident and like being like, I have this no matter what, and never feeling nervous about like, am I gonna fuck up this drum fill or this beat, or
that's almost as much about not even skills as it is the experience of being in the moment. Mm-hmm. Like, I think like when you're playing, the more experiences that you're thrown into, just the more you can handle them. It's the same in sports. It's like, how many people, when you're in a Grand Slam final and you're playing, Novak Djokovic, and this is his 35th Grand Slam final, and it's your first. It's like, he's just been there. He's walked out to it. He sees all the cameras. He sees the fans. He sees how big the stadium is. He's lost 5 of these already, and he's won 3. He's just like, his ability to handle that pressure has so much experience than someone who's doing this for the first time, and you're literally like a deer in the headlights. It's, I think a lot of these, feeling confident has to do with that as well.
Mm-hmm. But also I think it's like, say Roger, if he goes play a match today, he would probably kick most of the people's ass, but he would definitely be like, his level would be, because he doesn't train, probably he doesn't keep it going. So
he's out of shape.
Yeah, he's out of shape. So I think we create a lot. I play a lot, but I don't practice. I'm not in shape as much as I would like to be. That was more my point.
Yeah, so like a personal kind of, on a musician sense. Yeah, totally. I can relate.
It's not like I can play a bass line, but also something about, there's so many little things that goes to how you play the bass line, and if you're confident in something, then you can improvise.
One thing I would like us to get better at is, I guess this would be into individual instruments as well, is like, sure, you can play any drum rhythm in the world, but can you come up with different sounds? Can you find a way to figure out what the hell Tom Waits is doing and be like, I know exactly what he's doing, and I can figure that out in 2 seconds, and I know how to play it, because then you're bringing in, whether it's the rhythm is complicated or dead simple, it's not about that. It's about how that easy rhythm it creates a new sound that sparks an entire vibe or new thing in a band's song. That to me is, I think that we could all get much better at, is just learning those things. Like, okay, I want to get a bass tone that's like this, or I want to make whatever the guitar X, Y, or Z, and bam, I can grab that in 2 seconds, and I know how to do that, no problem. I don't need somebody else, a producer who's made 100 records, to be like, oh guys, you're struggling a little bit with this sound. I get kind of what you want. Here you go. I'll help you achieve it. I think the more we can do that ourselves, the more the initial songs will be as different and fresh and whatever as possible.
Yeah, and I think that stuff comes from knowing your instruments and everything about it, and like getting that, working on the creativity, and knowing that inside and out. How do you reproduce the sounds, like pedal boards, knowing that stuff inside and out, and being able to work with those things.
That is actually funny. Jeff Basker, the guy I mentioned, who was talking about recording drums, and he said, Bill Withers' drummer. He worked with him, and he said like
Gadsden.
Yeah, and he said like he came in the room, set up his kick drum, whatever, tuned it, whatever, and he's like, "This is the kick drum from that Bill Withers songs he had in mind. I can't remember." And so his conclusion was the majority of the drum sound is 50% or 45% the room, 45% the drummer. How he tunes his drums, how he produces his sound. He's just like, this is my sound. I want this sound, and then the microphone placements are kind of like whatever it is. It's
yeah,
important,
of course. But we're also like, the future of drums sometimes is not live drums.
True.
True.
And
maybe that's like an approach you can take. But yeah, of course, like you sit any drummer down at John Bonham's drum kit, it's not going to sound like John Bonham. That's just
for sure.
Fact. It's not going to work. But yeah, I agree. But that's with everything. It's your fingers on the bass. Like, it's your fingers.
Yeah.
And it's not somebody else's. And it's your voice and your vocal cords.
Yep.
You can't reproduce that stuff. Okay, well, where else would you, I guess, speaking of live shows, what size of venues would you want to hit? Like, let's say, I don't know, even 5 years, but like, what are you looking at right now?
I don't know. To me, like, 5-year goals or whatever, I think they're fine and dandy and whatever, but I also think that they're somewhat totally unrealistic just because the world moves so fast that we have no idea what the world's going to look like in 5 years from now, honestly. Like,
and these could very well change.
Yeah, and
a year.
Yeah, and these could change very quickly. So 5 years is just such a long time, but my next goal would be to play the Commodore. Or the next time we tour, I would like to be playing in 1,000 cap venues. I've made this very clear, that I don't have much interest in going to tour again right away and going and playing the same size venues or, slightly, 50 people more or something. I just think that, touring is such, an endeavor. It's a 3-month halt on pretty well almost everything else in your life, both personally and professionally, that to go do the exact same thing that we have done doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I get it. I think that if we were a band that, hey, we are going to, like, I was listening to the Alison Hagendorf podcast, wherever I saw on her Instagram. I think it was Goldfinger that she was talking to. And they had
the 90s band?
Yeah. And they set a record in the Guinness World Records one year. They played 385 shows.
Oh.
And it was a record. And I think that's what you did. And I've heard Steph from Pup talk about this, like at the beginning of their band. It wasn't about like, they didn't have a booking agent that was like, oh, we're doing this route and it's here, it's whatever. It was like, we're playing literally any show, and it doesn't matter what it is, from somebody's basement to we're opening with this band, we're doing whatever with this. And through each one of those shows, they met somebody else, which gave them an opportunity over here. Then they followed that over here, and then they grew, and then they were putting on their own tours. And that was just it sounds like the origin of their bands really, really came from extensive touring.
Well, pre-Spotify, that would probably be your play.
Yeah,
and
sure.
If you didn't have a label, until you get a label.
I guess, yeah.
People hear you.
You have no support.
I
right?
guess for us, like that wasn't the ethos of the band, and so I don't want to have to rely on that. I guess I'd like touring more to be like, okay, we've noticed that we've had a really successful project, and bam, there's an influx of new people who are listening to us. We just know that based on our comments, our numbers across the board growing. Okay, great. Let's go play shows, and let's go play 3 weeks here. Then let's go play 3 weeks here. Let's play 3 weeks here, and let's do these. Let's do these tours and love them and have a great time and put on the next version of the best show that we think that we possibly can. Let's take all the time in the world to do that and feel like, okay, this is we're ready to do that right now.
Yeah.
And to me, it doesn't feel like that's the moment to me right now. I feel like what's more important for us right now is I don't want to say we're relaunching the band, but we kind of are. Like it's a totally different new sound of music. We're going to be doing a lot more, we've kind of totally, I would say, refreshed our approach to how we deal with social media and the types of content that we want to put out there. We're trying so many more creative endeavors with video making and content making and how we approach it that I don't want to do that for 2 months and then be like, oh, great, that was fun for 2 months. Now we're only focusing on doing live shows because it's an all hands on deck type thing. To me, it makes a lot more sense right now we're just getting started on this. Let's spend a year on this. Let's see what we can do and how much better we can get, how many songs we can write, how many songs we can record, how many great songs we can put out, and let's see where that gets us.
That being said, what if we got offered $50,000 to play in somebody's backyard next week?
Well, sure. I mean, whatever. One-off shows, that's fine. Great. Okay, let's
we'll
go.
Still do it.
Yeah,
if
let's
you guys
go.
want to give us that.
Let's go take a week of practice, and we know a lot of songs that we played. Take a version of our show, and bam, let's rip it. No problem. Or same goes. If you get an opportunity that is a huge opening slot or something like that, and you're like, okay, this is a very cool life experience. When are you ever going to get this opportunity? B, this is a way that we can be exposed to 10,000 new fans we never would have been to before. Okay, you probably drop what you're doing on podcast making and making new songs, and you probably go do that.
You know what? That's actually, I would say that's a possible and very likely outcome that could come our way.
Maybe.
For sure. Something like that. A really good opening slot somewhere.
I think you also have to look for it. I don't think that it's not necessarily just going to come to you. I think that's a conversation that, your agent is like, okay, here's the target bands that we're after, and we're going to go see what we can do to, shoot our best shot to get on this tour.
And we're not necessarily an opening act. I think we could, but like how long is our show? An hour and a half or something like that?
Yeah, but I mean, you could always do like a 30-minute whatever. I think we could do anything. I think if the opportunity comes along, you're like, okay, we'll find a way to do this. Like, of course. Yeah. That doesn't scare me at all. It's more our own headline tour. I would want to, I don't want to just go do that. Like, I want to put a lot of thought into it. I want to come with an entirely different show that's going to take us 2 months to put together, or a month to put together, or whatever. And I want to make sure it's like, this is fun, exciting, it's totally different, and people are going to be absolutely stoked on this, that it's an event and they want to go to it.
Yeah, I like that. That was some of my favorite stuff, was the show production, that was working out the show.
Yeah, it's fun.
I love that.
It's fun, but it's an all hands on deck type of, I find it's physically tiring because obviously you're just in a room, especially this room. I love this room. I'm very happy that we've had the ability to have a place like this, and we've made so many songs here. And, I think that a lot of the ethos of the band was created in this space. But I am very much looking forward to having a space that's a little bit bigger, that's got a little bit more airflow, that's got just a little bit more, natural light, or just ways where, you feel like I'm fucking pumped to be. You want to be in this room for 5 hours? Let's be in this room for 8 hours. Where it feels really good, and it doesn't feel like when you're on day 21 of going over this thing that you're like, fuck, I don't really want to be in the deep down basement today.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the future, we will be moving into a new place.
Yeah.
So that'll be big.
Yeah,
that happens.
That'll be really cool. I think again, it'll just be another kind of just another refresh in a way where you're like, oh wow, okay, this is a new part of life. This is a new vibe. I got a new desk I'm sitting at. I got a new air I'm breathing. It's a totally different, it's a shakeup in one's life. And I think that a lot of times having a shakeup is a good thing.
Do you have a rough idea when?
Nah.
No.
I wish. It could be anywhere from 5 months to 12 months. Like,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that you're dealing with the city.
Knowing these things is more close to 12 months.
Yeah.
Maybe
24 months.
But you know what? It's also the type of thing that you could get a permit tomorrow, and then bam, you're off to the races, and then it's like a countdown, and that could be quick. Like,
Sure, I'm sure the provincial government, city. I'm sure the city is working very fast on that. Yeah.
As we were talking about being front of mind for people, I'm sure we're right at the top.
Yeah,
they saw
know.
the case file. They're like, rare Americans, baby.
We got to do this.
We're bumping everything to the back, and this is our number one
for
priority.
the best of Vancouver to get these guys recording as soon as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. Any other wrap-up goals? I think, what else do we want to see?
I would say wrap-up goals, maybe. Personally, I would also like to, I'd like to songwrite with a lot of different people. I'd like to try, almost like publishing in a way. That's one thing I thought would be cool, is to try, even in Vancouver in the future, once again, having a really good space. I think me personally, I would like to get back into engineering a little bit, production a little bit, and be able to confidently okay, I can easily run this session, no problem, and then get into a scenario where you could try to form some sort of group in Vancouver and do different writing sessions with all sorts of different artists, or even set up, even if I'm not in that songwrite, you could have two different groups going in one space or in different spaces, and almost try to
songwriting camp.
Yeah, kind of songwriting camp. Not even just for rare Americans, but to try to almost give to other artists as well. Because I think for myself, I know that I can definitely write pop, and I think sometimes I almost shy away from that for this project because I don't know. I'm like, oh, okay, it's not dark enough, or it's not fast enough, or it's not edgy enough, or whatever, but I still like it because I think just naturally I can have some pop sensibilities. So for me, I think it would be fun to kind of scratch that itch a little bit, to let's just go write some pop songs and work with a couple songwriters, not even artists, songwriters. Okay, bam, let's work on a folk song, or let's work on a country kind of song.
Yep.
And constantly, spend a lot more time just writing songs, which I think is like, for example, APG, that was what they do. So that's how they started as a publishing house, where they have 4 different studios going every single day with 3 different songwriters in each room writing songs that at the end of the day, they create a song, they write a demo, gets flown up to the powers that be, and they're trying to get those songs cut by other artists. I know it's an extremely hard business because there's a million people doing it, but I think it would be fun, and it makes you better as a songwriter.
Well, I think every artist needs, I don't know every artist, but I'm sure there's a lot of artists that probably could do all this, but they just need somebody to be like, hey, come here. I have the studio. Show up.
Exactly. They need it
organized. It's arranged time.
Yeah.
You're here. We write. And
it's a 4-hour session or whatever. It's somewhat structured. And next week, come again, but you're going to be in the room with different people. Or I think also over time, you learn, who are great songwriters in Vancouver. Not even great artists, just great songwriters. And you start to kind of get a feel for those people, and you meet more people that way. And you pick up some of their skills, maybe they pick up some of yours, and that could lead to all sorts of cool things. So
yeah, I'd really like to get into artist development, and maybe not the artist side, but help them just with what they do on the day-to-day, like the social media and just running a system that makes sense.
So you want to manage another artist?
No, I don't want to manage them. I just want to come in as a consultant or an advisor and be like, hey, let me just give you some framework on what you're doing wrong, and I'll just look through your image here. This doesn't make sense. I would love to do that because I feel there's so many bands that I see that just have no clue, and it's not that they don't care or they work hard. It's just they're like, it's just horrible what they're doing out there. And you're like, it was just some
It's not their fault. They just don't know, or they grew up in,
totally
on a farm or something. And it was like, they know how to do a whole bunch of shit that I don't know how to do. But I think if you don't grow up with having some sort of idea of, a business or whatever, then it's hard to just know everything that goes into it. Also, how much have we not known over time of doing this that you just, you pick up a lot of things from failing at it and figuring out, okay, well, that doesn't work. Okay, now I know what I need to do here. It's like your checklist just becomes bigger. I've thought lots about like, a record label or, having other artists, which I think would be really cool. It's so fucking hard.
It's a bad industry.
It's so hard to get an artist to a level, off the ground. Like it's like winning the lottery. Even Michelle and I were talking about this, like to the fact that we have gotten to a place of the amount of streams that we get in the hundreds of millions is shocking.
Well, we're in the 1%. Right?
It is quite literally like winning the lottery.
Yep.
It is the odds of it are so low with the amount of artists out there that we've already won in a way.
Exactly.
That to get someone else to also kind of, I guess, win the lottery that way, or, a needle in the ocean, kind of needle in a haystack. It's unbelievably hard. So, and the thing about me is I feel like if I'm signing up to something, you're going to get my all. I'm going to invest all of my energy I'm never going to sign up for something and half-ass it. Like, I just don't think I would be the type of person to do that. So now you're just like, oh my God, I'm emotionally invested into something else while having to still be emotionally investing in this thing that you're trying to get. Even it's super, super tough.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of free capacity. You only working on a movie and a TV show. And you can run a label easily.
Yeah, but maybe that's the type of thing. Again, it's like maybe, who knows, in 5 years, if you can get to a place where you are in that echelon of artist that we all hope to be. Your day to day looks a whole lot different. It's not as much about the absolute daily grind of shit. I got to come up with a song this month. We got to keep, or people are just going to leave us. It's like you've reached critical mass to a degree that you're able to look at other things, other endeavors, other projects, and it's not like, oh my God, I got to edit this video now.
Yeah, I just want to help other. I don't know if it's artists or whatever, but
I think for all of us, even musically now, you're saying you want to work with different songwriters and different artists and different producers, and seemed like you want to do it like kind of on your own. I think for all of us would be beneficial. Like, even if I think I have a lot of songs that are, and maybe not lyrically, but as melodically strong, even though they didn't resonate within here, but could resonate with somebody else.
Totally.
And also production ideas, stuff like that don't find their place here, but maybe could find a place somewhere. So I would love to, but with 2 kids, I don't know if I can ever do that. But in general, I would love to see how that is to work with somebody else and be kind of not the lead producer, because I'm not there yet, not at all, but just be.
Why wouldn't you just put something out as your own artist?
I don't know. That's actually
I listen to Jongo Bongo. Right?
I was actually talking to Mima yesterday. I was like, Mima, I have these songs, and some of them I think are cool. And what do you think about putting it out? He's like, what? Are you crazy? You should stay in music. I know you love music, but this is what you're gonna put pictures of you on Instagram? Are you crazy?
Yeah, man.
Like, she totally.
I love it.
We're like, you just do something else, okay? And when are you gonna do this? And what are you gonna do? I said, maybe I'm gonna take a day or 2 off and record the songs in the studio. What?
Yeah, but
if you have day or 2 off, you're here with me.
Yeah, but I guess I understand her perspective too. That it's like when you're to every single person who's not in music, the idea of being a musician or something it's like it's a joke in a way. That now it's like, oh my God, you're already doing this crazy ass thing, and now you want to do it again, but on your own. Like when are you going to do this? Why are you going to do it? Like, I get her perspective.
Totally. I told her, I totally get what you're saying. It was more like, I was like, Mima, but this is something that I want to tell to the world. It's the urge in you as an artist. And she's like, Artist.
It's
the kind of thing like
it's
okay, urge.
I believe it's the type of
you
thing.
have 2 kids, you have responsibilities. Fuck the urge.
Well, it's true. You do have responsibilities, of course.
It's the type of thing though that I think that you're as an adult that you don't need to ask permission for. You can go, and I get having a wife and whatever, and you want to be on the same page, but it's like, sure, if you were like, hey baby, I'm taking all our vacation time this year, babe, and I am spending all our savings, and I found this hotshot producer, and I'm going to LA for 3 weeks.
I'm a dead man.
Sure, I completely understand that. But if you're like, hey,
of course,
I'm going to take 3 days and I'm recording this project, whether you think it's fucking crazy or not. And I'm doing this and I'm recording it with this person, and I'm going to put out an EP by next year. Then I think it's the type of thing that when you just see that project through to the end and you take that picture and you just actually post it and it's actually online, it's like, respect. Nice work. Like, that's fucking, you have balls to do that. And you had so many people, I think, have ideas, and so few people have the ability to follow through on a plan to actually make something and put it out into the world. Whether it gets 1 stream or 1 billion streams, it doesn't matter. It's taking an idea that you have and something you want to try, and actually having the ability to put all those pieces together to the point where it's out into the world, it's hanging on a shelf, it's a physical record, and it's there no matter what happens. To me, that's much respect, and I would encourage you to do that. Absolutely. Because I think you have so many songs. Why wouldn't you go do that?
Yeah, I agree, and I will do that. And after talking a little bit, there was the first reaction, because she goes like, I'm already... So, because I told her, you're not supporting this, and she was like, I'm not supporting you. Come on. Like, you've been touring a whole year. I'm not supporting you. Come on. But I didn't mean in Rare Americans, but just this one project. Anyway, I will do it. She was like, if you feel... You rarely say something good about yourself, like my songs are good. So if you feel there's some songs that are good, then you should do it, because
or go when her parents come or something, and now you have at least you have a little bit more wiggle room.
You know, there are lots of authors that have released books with multiple kids. In fact, didn't Winston Churchill? Yeah. Winston Churchill, helped free the world. And he was painting. Winston Churchill found time to paint every day, and he
was Winston not required to take care of a kid.
I think he built stuff with bricks, Winston Churchill. So every day he did something artistic.
Dan Reynolds has 4 kids.
Oh, really?
That's a lot of kids.
Also, if I was Dan Reynolds and sure. I told Mima I want to try this project, she would be like, sure, I'll be just in our mansion hanging around with our maid. And
at the end of the day, I think that absolutely you should do that by 100%. I think that it's really cool. I think that people should be able to flex on ideas that they have that you want to, because you want to feel, as a human, you want to feel creatively fulfilled as well. And I understand that when you're working in the confines of a project that not everything works, not the ideas and the creativity that you want to bring to something, whatever it is, that could be similar to me, and like, hey, I want to write a pop song. Okay, well, I understand that there's probably certain limitations in this band, maybe not many, but some, that, okay, maybe that's a different area. You got to scratch that itch, and you should. And if it's something, I also believe in, if you really want to do something as a human, you're going to do it. You're going to find a way to do it if it means that much to you. I think that there's also a lot of people I've just met in my life, and I've heard them talk, and I love this so much. I'm gonna make a whatever. I'm gonna create this masterpiece painting, and it's so cool. And oh my god, I can't wait till it comes out. And it's like, how many hours did you spend painting this week? Oh, well, I got a little bit busy and I had to do this. It's like, you don't actually want to do this. If you really wanted to do this, the people who actually really love something, no matter what, they make it a priority and they figure out how to do it. So I'm a big believer in that if it's something that you're like, I want to do this and I feel it's good and this is something I'm passionate about, you're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's just the time.
For sure.
Time. And the same with... Probably Duran maybe wants to release an instrumental jazz fusion album.
Oh, that's so cool. Sick. I have to learn all the instruments though.
Yeah. It sounds like we all got a lot of goals and a lot of things. A good exercise. It was pretty cool. I guess this thing was going around social media in beginning of August or something, was to write a letter to yourself 1 year from now of where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing, and you close it. It could be on a note or on your computer or whatever. And then next year in August at the same time, you read back and you kind of see if it's like manifestation of sorts, but it's physically written on paper.
There's websites.
Sure.
You can, and they'll email.
Yeah, there you go.
Email
That's
yourself.
Cool. I just made a note and I archived it or whatever, but it's kind of like, it could be something like, well, I'm sitting on my porch right now and I'm holding the Grammy that we won for this record, and wow, what a crazy year it was. We did this and we did that, and we got a new dog, and I'm super pumped on how I'm feeling right now, and X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yeah, I guess a sort of manifestation of sorts, but I thought that was kind of cool that it's almost like this whole podcast in a way of like, it's cool that you're archiving something in the world that you can look back on 5 years from now and be like, where was I at that point? And how was I feeling? And what did I want in my life? And what did I actually get to? And where did it go? I think there's something cool about that.
Well, yeah, I think this is interesting. I don't think a lot of people here. I don't know if I've heard Dan Reynolds talk about what he wants to do in 5 years from 5 years ago.
True.
So maybe everyone listening should check back in 5 years.
Or also, I would encourage you to write us which you want to be doing. Not necessarily, again, 5 years is such a big thing, but 1 year, 3 years. Or it's like, what's the ultimate version of what you're doing and what you want to do? It'd be cool if people were to write to us and tell us and document that, because once you document something, it's out into the world and there's something to that. So,
yeah.
All right. Well,
all right. Thank you, guys.
That is another installment of the Screw Loose Juice, and we will see you guys back here soon for the next one.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Have a good day.
Dankeschön.
Screw Loose Juice.